Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time joining, thank you. If you are a previous subscriber or a new subscriber, welcome back. Okay, so today we are going to work on the Cricut Halloween decorations, and I will have the information listed below on where I purchased these, or the seller that I purchased these from. I did get them on Etsy, and they do come in a three-piece set, I guess you could call it. There are 3 different witches. This one is called the Cauldron Witch, and you can see here that she is stirring a cauldron over a fire. This one is called the Ghost Skull Witch. So you have your skulls and you have your little ghost here. And there's that one. And today what we're going to be working on is called the Sitting Witch. Okay, so a little bit of a backstory. I a little bit delayed on getting this filmed. I had almost the whole video completely filmed the other night, and we had a storm and I was losing my internet signal really bad. And if you're familiar with Cricut machines, you'll know that you have to have an internet signal to be able to use Cricut Design Space. And you need that because your Cricut machine is connected to your computer either with a cord, like mine is now, or by Bluetooth. And I did have it connected with the cord, so it was hardwired directly to my laptop. But I was still losing my internet signal, and the Cricut machine was dropping off. So I just ended up calling it a night, and I was having a lot of problems with the way that particular design was being cut. Now, I wanted to be able to bring you a tutorial that was going to be nice and cohesive and not all skipping around because I kept on losing the internet signal. So today I came back and I viewed what I had already filmed, and I was just going to try to pick up at the end of that video so I wouldn't have to refilm the whole video. Okay, so that did not work. We are going to be starting this video tutorial all over for you guys. And I'm going to just try to simplify it a little bit more than what I was doing with the previous one. That way we can get straight to the point and you guys can see exactly how this design is going to be made, or this project. Okay, so I was cutting out my designs, the pieces on the Cricut machine, and I got almost all of it completed, like I said. And I was learning that for this particular one, the pressure while I was cutting out the design was not quite enough. So I'm going to increase pressure while I'm cutting this one, and I'm hoping that it is going to work better. When I did increase the pressure when I was trying to film it the first time, it worked. But when I was filming it for the first time, the pressure wasn't enough and I was not getting through the cardstock. So I am going to start off automatically by increasing the pressure as I am showing you guys how to do this tutorial. And literally I had almost all of the pieces cut out, but the internet ended up completely dropping out that night, and it just didn't make me happy, I guess you could say, and I was getting really frustrated with the project. And I did not want to portray a video like that, being frustrated. So we're gonna set that aside and we're gonna start all over. Now, what I like to do is I like to have a little Ziploc bag ready, or a little container next to you ready, because there are going to be some really small pieces when you're cutting out the designs. And for example, like these little flowers here, the purple flowers, were really small pieces. Same with on this one, the little skulls and the little red portions were small pieces. And they can get lost very easily So I like to just have a Ziploc bag or a container next to me that I can put those pieces in right away as I take them off the mat. Okay, so I'm going to go over what we need, and then we are going to change camera angle so you can see exactly on the computer the first steps you have to start to take, or the first steps you have to do in order to load your design into Cricut Design Space and start cutting. Okay, so first what you're going to need is you are going to need your cardstock, and this is actually a very good project for scrap. And so I have some scrap pieces of cardstock, and you will see later on as we progress through the design what I mean by using scrap. So this is all that was cut out for this particular color. So I'm going to go ahead and use this piece again because, I got a lot of cardstock there. For our white portion, this is all we're going to need. This is what was cut out of the white on the previous video I was trying to film for y'all. And then I have another piece. You're going to need a couple full pieces. And then you are going to need the contrasting piece of cardstock. For this particular design, it's going to be purple. And your contrasting piece is going to be the back piece of the design. And what that's going to do is it's cut out in layers. So you can kind of see the orange in the background and the orange on the flowers. And it's also going to give the body of the design or your cut some more stability. So when it's assembled. Okay. And then what you're going to need is you are going to need either some vellum paper, and that's what this is here. And you can see it's see-through. You guys can see through that, I hope. And what vellum is if you're familiar with, say, graduation announcements or wedding invitations, they will have a piece of paper inside them that is either printed or it's for a just a sheet that's going to protect the printing on the invitation. And that's what vellum paper is. I'm not exactly sure what it is made of. I'm going to have to look that up actually. But vellum is going to be what creates your window on your paper lanterns. Okay, so what these lanterns will do is that you can put a battery powered votive candle in them, and then they glow through the vellum. Okay, so that's what these are if you are unfamiliar with paper cut lanterns. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move these pieces aside. I'm going to open up the Cricut machine. Now, if you have seen some of the previous videos on my channel, you will know that I also have a Cricut Joy Extra. It is a smaller model, and I wanted to be able to make greeting cards a little bit quicker and some other things a little bit quicker. So I have since purchased the Cricut Explore 4, and this particular color is called Sage. And I did purchase this from Michael's. I will have that information listed below. I will try to share a link with you. I do not know if it is still on the sale price, but I paid I believe it was $229 or $249 for it. So we're going to go ahead and hit power. It's going to calibrate itself. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to pause this camera. We're going to pop over to the other camera so we are right in front of the laptop so you can see exactly what you have to do to put your design into Cricut Design Space. Now, before I get ahead of myself, I want you guys to know that if you do purchase a Cricut, you do not have to pay for Cricut Design Space. Okay. There are a lot of free designs out there. There are a lot of free designs on Cricut Design Space. But when you purchase a machine, you're going to get 30 days free. Now, you need to make sure that if you do not want to pay for your yearly Cricut design space, I can't remember, it's got an actual name for design space, but if you're going to be paying for it. And you don't have to do that. You do not have to pay for Cricut design space to use a Cricut machine. That was a little long-winded to get to saying that you do not have to pay for Cricut design space. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because on some of the sites that I have been researching, if you are researching Cricut machines, some of the people making comments are saying that you have to pay for Cricut design space, and you do not have to. There are a lot of free designs out there. You do Google searches, Pinterest searches, and you can find a lot of free designs. They are in an SVG file format, and that is called, I can't remember the exact term for SVG, but it's a vector graphic file. I can't remember what the S stands for. I'm really sorry. I will have that listed down below though. But you want to make sure that whatever file you are going to be using is an SVG file. Cricut does take some other additional files, and I will get to that in another video in the future. But we're going to go ahead and continue on with our project. I'm going to pause this camera. We're going to pop over to the secondary camera so you can see the laptop screen. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I have a setup here in front of the laptop, and this is what your screen is going to look like when you first load into Cricut Design Space. When you register and everything and you get everything set up, this is what your page is going to look like. What we're going to do is I'm first going to show you how you're going to load an SVG file into Cricut Design Space, and you're going to have to do that for every project you work on unless it is on Cricut Design Space already, if it's already a free file in Cricut Design Space. Okay, so what you're going to do is you can see here up at the top, hopefully you guys can see my little mouse here. Up here at the top right corner you're going to see New Project, or you can hit here where it says Blank Canvas. So I'll just hit Blank Canvas for now, and it brings it up here. You can see this little icon, little V here, and what this does is you can close this and it lets you have a complete full screen. So let me go back. I'm going to hit New. Okay, we're going to go back to Home, sorry. And I'm going to hit New Project and let you see what that one says. So it drops down this little section here, and you're just going to hit Blank Canvas as well. So either way you do it, it will open up your window. Okay, so on my screen right now, up here it has my little machine icon, and you can, hopefully you guys can see that there's a little red dot right there right now. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me back you up just a little. Maybe you can see it a little better. Okay. Oops. There we go. Hopefully you guys can see that little red dot up there. What that means is that my Cricut is not connected. So I'm going to hit the little icon, and you can see that connection has failed, and I'm going to just hit try again. And you can also see right here that I have Explore 4 and my Joy Extra. Joy Extra is connected by Bluetooth, and that is the only option to connect to a laptop with the Joy Extra is by Bluetooth. The Explore 4, you have either hardwire, connecting the wire from the machine to your laptop or desktop computer, or you have a Bluetooth option. I like connecting it with the cord, the wire, whatever you want to call it, because it gives a more secure connection, I guess you could say, or a more stable connection. That did not work for me the other night, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, because of my weather. My internet kept dropping signal. Okay, now what we're going to do is you're going to go over to this bar over here on the left, and we are going to grab this gray bar and scroll down. On a desktop computer, you will have the full screen, but for some reason on my laptop, it does not give me the full screen. I may have to go in and kind of adjust my graphics a little on my machine to be, or on my laptop, to be able to get it all on screen, or either way, I'll just leave it the way it is. So what I'm going to do is you go over to this bar over here on the side, and you can see new template, projects, shapes, images, text, monogram, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom, it's going to say upload. So you want to hit upload, and it brings up this screen. It's always going to have this little thing over here if you're not subscribed. Okay. If you're not subscribed. And there you go. For Cricut Design Space, the paid subscription is called Cricut Access. I knew there was a name for it, but I just could not think of what it was. My brain didn't want to connect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we want to upload an image. So I'm going to click on Upload Image, and I'm going to hit Browse. Now what that's going to do is it's going to take me, let me go ahead and click here. And my new volume that you can see over here, what that is my external hard drive that I have all of my designs on. So I have up here at the top, I have Cricut SG files. So I'm going to open that file. And you can see I have a whole list here. And I'm going to scroll down to the design I want. And it is called the Witch Sitting Witch. So I'm going to double click and it opens it up. I'm going to double click here and it brings up a PDF file, a PNG file, and an SVG file. What your PDF file is, I don't have anything listed for that one. So let's go back. I'm going to go to SVG, and you can see here that there are a couple different files to it. Okay. So I'm going to click here on the first one, and it says One All SVG. Not all designs will give you this option. They will either have it, whoops, they will have it as separate designs. So, so you can see that there's frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, and then where it says parchment down here. So what the first one does is I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to load it and show you the difference between what those files are. Okay, so what the all was is exactly all. It brought up all the files. And I do like doing it this way because it loads all the files at one time. But like I was saying, not all designs that you either purchase or you find for free will give you this option. It may take several different times to upload different pieces of your project. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. I'm going to hit upload. I'm not going to say, well, we're just going to leave it and then hit sitting. So I'm going to add sitting to this one because this is the Sitting Witch. So right here for the title, so I just did that, and then I'm going to hit upload. Okay, so it told me upload, and that you can see here on my screen, if I scroll through, not that way, this way, it is loading all of the designs, okay? So that's there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to show you, this is now in, I'm going to hit save, and I want to save this, so I'm going to hit all Sitting Witch Lantern. And that is, Did I seriously misspell lantern? Oh, lantern. There we go. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to save it in my files. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Okay, so it says project saved. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can load individual files. So we're going to go back up and I'm going to hit new. Close this again. I'm going to scroll down to upload, upload image, browse again, and you will go for each one that you have. Now I already have frame 1, 2, and 3 loaded into my laptop because when I previously was doing the project, I was loading them each one and showing you each time that I loaded them. I already have them in my laptop saved or in the Cricut Design Space saved. The only one I don't have is the parchment. So I'm going to go ahead and hit parchment and I'm going to open it so I can show you how to save it again. It's the same way that we did the all file, but this one is just for the parchment pieces that will be cut. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue, and I'm not going to name it because it already says parchment and it is saved. Okay, so you can see there that that is all saved. Now what I want to do is I don't want to start cutting at this point the parchment because that's going to be the very last step of our design. So I know that it is in the system. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to just hit parchment, type in parchment. And I am sorry if I am misspelling. I am about 3 feet behind my laptop here. There we go. Okay, so parchment. I'm going to hit save. And that is saved up here at the top. Okay, so now I have all of my files already in the system. So I'm going to go back to new project. I'm going to close here. And if you already have all your files loaded in, you can either go to new, close that, go to upload, and scroll down. Okay, so you will see that I have all of my little files saved here. And for some reason, I have this one saved already and this one saved. It is the same exact design, so I'm just going to delete one of those. So frame 2 and frame 2. So I'm going to just delete one of those because I don't need both of them in the system. So we have our sitting witch 1, first frame. We have frame 2, frame 3, and over here is our parchment. This was the one I showed you that has all SVG files combined in one. And for tutorial reasons, I'm not going to do that one because I want to show you each step. Okay, so we are going to start with number 1. You can load it from here, so you can click on it, go over here, add to canvas, and it adds it directly to your canvas, and you can see all that there. Okay, or I'm going to go back, hit new, and we're going to replace. Close this again, and you can go to my stuff up here at the top. Okay, and there we go. We have all of the files already in saved in your files. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Sitting Witch again, and it loads it a little bit different this time. So it brings up this project, and this little option right here, if you can see where it says saved for offline, and you can see my check mark here in green. If I uncheck it and check it, what the check mark does is saved for offline lets you edit offline. So I can go to Cricut Design Space and I can move these files around offline. I do not have to be connected to my Cricut machine to be able to edit offline. Okay, so I'm going to hit Make It over here. And it's going to load it to the screen. Okay, so now you can see that once we click Make It, it puts it to a completely different screen. And if you see up here at the top, it's going to tell you to prepare 3 mats. Because even the preview, how it showed you that it's all on one screen, when you go to make it, it divides it up into different ones. So we've got this one, and you can see that it's just a very small amount for the 12 by 12 mat. Okay, so this right here is all we are going to be cutting. But if you go over here and you scroll down, you can see that it has your first mat and your second and third. And if you can see how the colors are, it's breaking it down into colors of what kind of cardstock you're going to use, which is a really great option. You can go in and you can edit whatever you want, whatever colors you want, but we're not going to get into that for this design. This is just going to be a really simple tutorial on a purchased design. Okay, so like I was saying, this is a really great project for using scrap pieces of cardstock. Okay, so when you are making a project, if you have pieces of cardstock that you know that you can use, that you don't want to be wasting a lot of product, definitely cut off. So that little piece is all we're going to need. And you can see that I already used it at one time. Okay. So what we're going to do is, you can see here that basically I just need a piece that's going to be 3 inches. So you can see this is 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. So I just need a piece that is literally going to be 3 inches. So I'm going to load that onto my mat, and I am doing that here off screen. I will show you when we go back to overhead camera view. But what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and load it onto your mat. You can see here that it's on mat because we are using cardstock, so you do have to use a mat to cut it. And I am using a 12 inch by 12 inch mat. You can click on this and you can change your mat size. But for my Cricut Explore 4, it takes a 12 inch mat. So these ones on here, I am not going to mess with the 10 inch by 24s because those are for other Cricut models. For my particular Cricut Explore 4, I have to do the 12 inch. There are 12 inch by 12, 12 inch by 19, or 12 inch by 24. So we're just going to be using the 12 inch by 12 inch mat. That's all we need for this project. Do not worry about the mirror option here. You are not going to touch that. Mirror option is for when you are cutting vinyl for t-shirts. The mirror option, what that does is it reverses the image. Because like if, say you look in a mirror, when you're looking at the image, it's going to be backwards. So that's what the mirror image means, that you are mirroring that image. So when you go to apply it to your shirt, it's going to appear in the correct facing forward image. Because when you cut those images, you're actually cutting them backwards. Okay, we'll get into that in another tutorial later. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to hit continue. And now it's telling you for your cardstocks. So what I want to do is I have my images bookmarked. I do not want to, whoops, let me go back here. I don't want this one, so I need to open this back up. So I'm going to unmark this one, and I have my vellum bookmarked. I don't want to confuse you on this, so we're just going to take vellum off. and I'm going to popular. Okay, so this is what your screen is going to look like for 99% of your projects, unless you have unless you already are experienced with the Cricut machine and you understand what the bookmarked ones mean. They are your bookmarked designs. Okay, so this is what your popular, and I have base material cardstock for intricate cuts, but I'm going to, I know from experience that when I cut it before, I was having issues with my 80-pound cardstock for this particular cut file because it did not want to cut all the way through. So I'm not going to go with my Cricut, the Cricut cardstock, or this one here, the medium cardstock at 80 pounds. I want to go to Browse All Materials, this option here, and Artboard. So this is going to have your corrugated cardboard. So it's going to list by topic. So here's my cardstock here. And I have either, let's see, light cardstock, medium cardstock, value cardstock, which is 65 pound. My value cardstock and my light cardstock is 65 pounds. But since I knew from already trying to cut this design, it was not cutting all the way through. And let me show you what I'm talking about on that one. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see on there, it looks like it cut all the way through, but on the back, see how it didn't? It didn't cut all the way through. So what I want to do is I want to go in, and you can either, let me close this, you can select medium cardstock, and you can say your pressure right here, you can click on that and it will do more pressure. Now I know again that did not work for my 80-pound cardstock. It was not cutting through for me. I don't know if it could have been some factor of where maybe we have a lot of humidity right now and my cardstock is maybe a little affected by that humidity. Those are the possibilities. Okay, so if you try and your more option does not work, I know it did not work for me. So what I'm going to go in is I'm going to hit my Browse All Materials. I'm going to go to my cardstock and I'm going to go cardstock for intricate cuts. I'm going to bookmark it, but I also want to go down here to material settings. Hopefully you guys can see that in the bottom left corner down here, material settings in green. I'm going to click on that. Okay, so now I'm going to scroll through. It has cardstock here for intricate cuts. I don't want it to cut 2 times. I know it does not need to be cut 2 times. So if you go up here to the top, you'll see material name, cut pressure, multi-cut, and your blade type. Then you'll see over here to the right, it has your edit option. So I know I'm going to be using cardstock for intricate cuts. Pressure is set at 230 and it says 2 times that it's going to cut. What that means is it's going to pass twice. I do not need it to pass twice. So I'm going to edit that. I know that I want to turn this off. So we're going to turn it off. Okay. So then it's going to give you the option to cancel, reset, or save. I'm going to hit save because you can now see that it is not right here, this bar here, that it is not going to make 2 passes. Okay. So when you are making a project, you're going to experience, you should know like on your first cut when you're making, if it's not going to cut accurately. So I'm telling you this to hopefully save you the stress of when you start out. You'll know these little tips ahead of time so you can maybe expect them. So what we're going to do now is I have my item selected here, cardstock for intricate cuts. I am now going to just hit my more pressure. So you can see, so the less, default, or more. I'm going to keep it on more. So that is going to apply more pressure in the cut, but it is also going to only cut it one pass because, okay, wait. Yes, okay, so we have it set for that option, cardstock for intricate cuts. And now it's telling you load your tools and material. I am going to go back to our overhead view, and when I have that selected, we are going to show you the next steps on my machine. If you are using a Cricut Joy Extra, you will know that the buttons are not on the machine. You have to do everything on your laptop. So since we are using the Cricut Explore 4, we're just going to go ahead and stick with that. And I'm going to go to our next camera view, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're now back to the overhead shot. And I'm really glad we switched when we did, because my battery on the secondary camera started to die. So I have that charging, and that's going to work out okay. Because I think for the rest of the tutorial, we are going to go ahead and stay with our overhead view. And I'm really hoping you guys can see everything okay. So for our first cut, if you remember correctly, it was just going to be a very small piece. So literally, I have just a really small piece of cardstock here. So I'm going to load it into my machine. And there are little guides here on your machine where you're going to make sure that your mat is underneath that. I'm using a light grip mat, and it is working fine with my cardstock. Some projects will tell you to use a standard grip mat, but I found that for this particular cardstock, it was too sticky. So now what we're going to do is, since we have it loaded into the machine, I have a blinking light here, and I don't know if you guys can see that clearly, but what my blinking light means is that it's going to load my mat. So let's go ahead and load it. And you can see that my mat is a little wonky here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unload my mat. Unload, because I didn't have the mat in here correctly. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have it lined up in the guides. And I usually try to make sure that it's on the left, pressed over to the left. And I do have some problems with this mat because, as you can see, it's bent. Can you guys see that? This is the way the mat came when I received the machine. It came with this particular mat. And I just need to make sure that I hold it when it's loading. So we're going to reload that. And it is calibrating itself for the cut. I'm going to pull it this way a little bit more, because you want to make sure that you have 10 inches behind your machine. So now it is showing that the little play or the go button. Now my particular machine makes a beep every time the blade drops down to cut. So if you hear that beep, don't worry about it. That's perfectly natural. I did research on if you can turn that beep off, and unfortunately the person I talked to through Cricut Help told me you cannot. I have researched it, and some people are saying, well, my Explore 4 doesn't make that beep. You know, so my Explore 3 doesn't make that beep. So I don't know if it's just something that they've done with the Explore 4 or what. But for my model, I cannot turn it off. Okay. So if you're familiar with Cricuts, do not be alarmed by that beep. I did research it. I did talk to a tech, and they said it's normal. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. It is preparing on the screen of my laptop. Okay. And a great thing about the Cricut Explore 4 is it cuts very quickly. And there we go. That first cut is complete. I'm going to go ahead and hit my button again to unload my mat. And you can see, hopefully you guys can see that okay. And I turn it a little bit and you guys can see that it cut. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm going to go ahead, and what you want to do when you're taking anything off your mat, put it sticky side down and roll your mat and not your cardstock, because it will bend your cardstock. Okay, so it cut, but still not all the way through. Some of them don't look like they're fully cut. So what I'm going to see, that one came out okay, but what I'm going to do for my next cut, I'm going to pop these out and I am going to go back in and I'm going to increase the pressure of the cut. If you remember, I showed you how to go in and adjust that. I'm popping these out. They are coming out okay for these little skulls, but I know on some of the other designs there are going to be some more intricate cuts, and I know that they are going to be hard to get out of the cardstock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that. I did show you already how to do that, so I'm going to just do that for our next cut off camera. So I'm going to pause for a moment and I will be right back. Okay, so I got the setting fixed in my laptop and I forgot to put these in a bag, and I literally almost threw them right on the floor. And I can't find my bag. I set it aside somewhere. Okay, so here's my bag. I'm going to make sure I put these little skulls that we cut into the bag. And I'm really sorry. We're just going to go ahead and keep the overhead view. And I'm going to show you how to load each cut. And we're just going to go ahead and go for it. When I did try to film the video previously, what was happening was it was going to be over an hour and a half long video, and I really don't know for such a simple project if it needs to be that long. Okay, so our next cut is going to be a green cardstock, and what you can see me doing here is I have it on the mat, and I am just rolling it with my brayer. This is just a little roller and they call it a brayer. Now we're going to go ahead and load the next one. Okay, it's reading the mat. And I'm going to hit go. And it does take a second for it to actually kind of read it. Now, I did look online while I was changing the setting in the machine for it to cut a little bit more pressure, that some cardstocks, even though they are the same exact brand, different dyes can affect that cardstock. And just like with any kind of, if you're familiar with quilting, fabrics are different. Different dye lots can do different things to different fabrics. So if you're familiar with quilting, you will know that some quilting fabrics are going to bleed on the colors and stuff. So you'd either pre-wash them or use color catchers when you are washing your quilts. So I did learn that black cardstock can be affected by the dyes. So maybe that is why I was having issues on the previous time I was trying to film this tutorial for you guys, that it was just not cutting very well. Okay, so this one finished, so I'm going to go ahead and unload the mat. You can see the cuts there. Can you guys see those? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to just bend the mat and not the cardstock. Oh, look at that, guys. See how easy those literally came off? They are just falling off the mat and the cardstock. So we have these little green moths. So there's those. And our little flowers are falling right out. And that, truthfully, is really good. Because I'm hoping that when I get to our next step, the more intricate cuts are going to cut even better. So I am done with this piece, and you can see that I got a lot of cardstock here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these off later, and I have all this cardstock that I can use on another project. Okay, so let's put our little pieces here in the bag so I don't lose them. And now our next cut for this particular design is going to be on the purple. Okay, so now I'm going to, so I have two different light grip mats. This darker blue or brighter blue I purchased on Amazon, and it is stickier than the standard light grip mat that came with my machine. This is a super light grip mat. I actually like these ones better, and for this particular portion that we're going to be cutting, I do want it to be a little bit stickier. But if you don't have one, a mat that is a little stickier, you can rotate your mat around. So I was lining everything up with the 1x1 grid here. You can turn your mat around and line it up this way, because this side isn't being used as much, so it's just a little stickier, if that makes sense. Okay. But now what we're going to do is we are going to be cutting the first portion of the witch itself. So it's going to be that background piece that I showed you when we first started. And I am not getting this lined up accurately. Come on. I want to make sure I get it right on my lines of the mat. And you also want to make sure that when you are looking at your design, that you are placing your cardstock correctly on the mat. So there is, when you are on your computer screen, you can hover over your cut file, and it will show you how to correctly put your cardstock or whatever the item, the material that you're going to be cutting on the mat. So this is a 12 by 12 mat. This particular cut that we're going to be making tells you on the design that it is 7 inches wide by 9 inches long. So I want to make sure that I'm loading my material correctly on my mat. So I have, my cardstock is 8.5 inches by 11. So I want to make sure that I have my narrowest piece this way and my longest piece this way. And I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to take my roller, make sure it is attached well. I'm going to load it into the machine, and we are again doing our heavy cardstock option, and it's telling me to load the mat. And this is a big cut, but watch how quickly, this is in real time, watch how quickly when I push start, how quick this is going to cut. Okay, it's going to take just a second. I'm sorry, I'm going to move this because that's kind of glaring a little bit. Move it off to the side a little. And this is cutting really well. I can see by looking at the mat that it is cutting fully through. So I am really happy with that. Okay, that is how quick that cut that. I'm going to unload the mat. I'm going to show you, and you guys can see that. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this part closed, and I want to be able to show you guys, let me move this back just a little so we can see that when you're taking a piece off like this, you're going to want to use some tools, because there are some really intricate cut areas, and that is where you really want to pay attention when you are unloading them off the mat. So I'm going to show you, like right here, this particular part, can you see that right there? Of the lantern is a really thin, narrow part. Then you have some little points here that are a little harder to get off. And I know, I'm really sorry guys, I'm sorry that this is really hard to see. But what you're going to do is, again, you're going to roll your mat so you can see how it's starting to come off. Do it for each side. Okay. That way it is going to be easier to lift this off. And you can see how well it cut because it's already separating very easily. Now the piece that I was telling you about when I had the video, when I was first trying to film it for you, I ruined this piece because this little part right there, you can see that it's, now that it's separated off the mat, that little portion right there tore off completely because it was such an intricate cut and my cut pressure was not, it didn't have enough pressure that it didn't cut all the way through and it tore it right off. So you want to be very careful when you are removing your cardstock or whatever type of material you are using for the little intricate cut areas. Look at that, guys. Look how nicely that came off. Okay, so now this piece is also going to come out, and I saved this piece because that's actually a pretty good sized piece of cardstock that if I have a flower or something I need to cut later, this may be the perfect piece for it. So I'm going to save that in my scraps. I also have quite a bit of cardstock on this piece. I can cut all this piece off and this piece down here at the bottom. And now what we're going to do to take this portion off is, if you have the Cricut tool set, this is where the spatula comes in handy. It's literally just a little spatula. And again, you're going to bend your mat a little to get it underneath the edge. You don't want to force underneath the paper because you can bend the paper and we don't want to bend it. So we're just lightly putting it underneath. And it's coming off quite well. I'm going to stick that under there a little so you guys can see this. And if you can't get it off, you can use like, this is an X-Acto blade, and it's just nice and small. And if I do have an area that needs a little bit more finessing, like these little pieces here, I can get the X-Acto knife just underneath that little piece and gently lift it. Sometimes the spatula can be a little too large to get underneath that piece. So I'm going to try to go back this way and get this lifted a little. And this is where sometimes if a mat is too sticky, it can work against you. Okay, so see that little piece needs to come off. See this little piece right here? I bent it a little bit, but that's going to be okay when we start assembly because we are going to be gluing this down. Okay, so that is our first piece. Let me put it here up against the black so you can see it. That is our first piece of the witch's body that we cut. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to move on to our next cut file. I'm just going to go ahead and put it into the computer because my my other camera kind of died a little bit, and I'm really sorry about that. That I'm going to load the next file in, and that is going to be the file number 2. So I'm going to go, if you remember correctly, I already had it loaded into the system, and it is telling me that my next colors are going to be black. So I'm going to go and make sure that my little pieces here are off of my mat. You can either pick your little pieces off if there's just a small amount like this, or you can use the spatula to remove them, but you want to make sure that you don't gouge your mat. Or you can use a scraper tool. This is what came with the mats that I purchased from Amazon. Or they have actual scraping tools like this, and these are for scraping off of the mat. Those scraping tools are also used for the same kind of purpose of what the brayer tool is, to make sure that things are attached to like the backing tapes and things like that. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and proceed with the next cut, and it is telling me that I'm going to also have to prepare 2 mats. I'm going to pause here for just a second and see if the other camera, the camera battery is charged enough, because actually on this next step, it does have something I want to show you, that you can save some cardstock. So give me just a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, so the battery's charged enough. Hopefully we can get through this whole portion without the battery dying. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to my stuff. We are going to hit our next section, which is the Sitting Witch file 2. Okay, I have it saved for offline if I need to edit it for anything. I'm going to hit Make It. Okay, project is not available at this time. Project could not load. I'm not sure why it did that. So we're going to close this window. I'm going to go back to my stuff and hit it again. Sometimes that could just be the internet, that it's not connected strong enough to load it. So let's try it again. There we go. Okay, so it loaded just fine this time. So again, it's telling me prepare 2 mats. So you could leave it at that, or you could see how this piece is highlighted right here. What I could do, if I don't want to use a lot of cardstock and conserve it, let's go ahead and move down to mat 2, and you can see that that's all that's going to cut. So that is okay, because I can use a small piece of cardstock for that. So when I move down to mat 2, it's highlighting mat 2. To go back to mat 1, you just click on it and it highlights it and brings it back. Okay, so this is now going to be all cut on one piece. And you can see here that this piece is highlighted. I can click on the mat and I can take this and move it over. I can take this one and move it over. And I can take this one and move it over. Now, am I saving a lot of cardstock? Maybe not. But you can also click on these and you can rotate them to move them anywhere on the mat that you want. But for the sake of being a first-time tutorial, I'm not going to move them yet. Let's just save that for more when you get further into knowing your Cricut machine. Okay, so now also this is a good tip on how I told you on when we cut the purple piece of cardstock on how to orient your cardstock on your mat. Now look how our images are on the piece of laid out on the mat. So now you have more going to the 12-inch mark and less on the length. So we're at 9 inches here. So you want to make sure that you're going to lay your cardstock in the right way. Now, for me, this is going to be a problem because if you remember correctly, I was telling you that my cardstock is only 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches long. So what I need to do is I actually need to move my designs so they can fit on my 8.5 inch by 11 inch piece of cardstock. And that's the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to move these two down. And let's go ahead and move these back over here. I know that my cardstock is 8.5 inches. So I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to place it here. And I still want to make sure that, see this? I don't know if you guys can see this red line in here. You do not want to go past that red line because then you're not going to be on your cardstock. So I'm going to click this one and we are going to, oops, move down. And I moved my witch just a little, so I need to click back on that and move her back over where she needs to be. And go back to this one. And I'm going to rotate it and grab it and move it. Now I know I'm going to have enough room because my cardstock is 11 inches and here's my 11 mark. So I know that that's going to fit there just fine. And we want to make sure that's straight. Okay. So now I want to go back up here and I want to grab my my moths. I'm not sure if they're moths or what they are, but I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to grab this one and move it down. I'm going to grab this one and scroll down because I know I can put that one there and I can put that one there. So I am within my 8.5 inch and within my 11.5 or my 11 inch mark for my cardstock. Okay, so then you're just going to click on it so none of them are highlighted and you're going to hit continue. We are going to select our heavy cardstock and we are going to change camera view again. So I'm going to turn this one off and go to overhead. Give me just a moment. Okay, we are back to our overhead view and I just showed you how we go about fitting onto the cardstock. So now we're going to go to our mat and you remember how I told you about 8.5 by 11. So we're going to go ahead and take our piece of cardstock and make sure that we get it oriented on correctly. And I like getting it right on the lines. That way I know that it's going to be accurate and I'm making sure that it's stuck down. Now this is going to be a bigger cut, so it is going to take just a little bit longer. Not much. I'm making sure again I have my mat lined into the machine correctly and I have it pushed over to the left. I'm going to hit start or I'm going to hit load mat. I forgot to pull my machine forward a little so we're not hitting anything on the back. Okay, hit start and we're going to start our cut. Oops, I am going to actually put more on my, I forgot to change it. So we are now going to start our cut. There we go. So it's going to be just a second. Today I woke up feeling really horrible. I don't know if it's allergies or if it's I may be getting sick. The COVID virus is again hitting our area. We do have reports of flu being in our area. My husband and I did just get over being sick for 2.5 weeks. We don't know what it was. If there's just a bug going around. But we had like, we don't know if it was a mild case of COVID. We don't know what it was. But today I woke up feeling absolutely horrible. So I did kind of stay in bed as much as possible today to hopefully not overexert myself. And I just wanted to get that rest. Okay. I think you guys can kind of see as well back up in here on the where it is being cut. You can see that the mat is coming out the back. I don't know if I remember to tell you or not, but you need to make sure that for your 12-inch mats, you need to have a minimum of 10 inches behind your machine of free space so the mat does not hit up against anything and prevent your machine from not cutting accurately. With a 24-inch mat, you need to double that space. I do have another project that I'm going to be making that I will have to either splice pieces of cardstock together to get it to, made correctly, or I will have to buy pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock to make that. I do have some poster board that I could possibly use, but it does require a 24-inch mat for it to be cut on, so I did purchase some of those. I will be posting that video soon as well on some other supplies that I bought specifically for the Cricut Explore 4 machine. There are a lot of your items that are interchangeable between machines, but then there are a lot that are not as well. So supplies, like your cardstocks, your vinyls, things like that, they can be cut down to size. Okay, so that cut is complete. I'm going to hit unload mat, and you can see that our cuts did really well. See how nice, and those look really good. I could have moved these over here and kept them here so I could have saved a little more product, but that's okay. I really like the way it turned out. I'm going to close, and again, I'm going to remove this off. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and set that aside actually, and we're going to go ahead and load the next cut. I'm going to remove these little pieces off this mat with my scraper, and those were just like the little dots that came off the moths, like their eyeballs. In my experience with using my Cricut Joy Extra and the making the completed witches, the witch lanterns, I have learned that it is really good to have, please excuse the dinginess of this. I use it in my office all the time, but I am vacuuming up the little pieces with it. I think I paid like 20 bucks for this at Walmart, but it is really easy and quick way to clean up little pieces of cut cardstock. Do not use it for vinyl because it will get stuck in the little vacuum. Okay, so our next piece that we're going to cut, we are only going to need a very small piece of cardstock for it. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that here. I know it is about a 2-inch by 2-inch cut, but I'm not going to trim this piece of cardstock down to fit that 2. I'm just going to go ahead and put this on, open back up, and load the mat. If you guys have any questions, please ask. If I am going a little bit too quick, please let me know, and in the next tutorial I will slow it back down. If you guys like the longer video, I know this is probably going to be maybe an hour, if not even more. Okay, let's go ahead and start this one. But definitely, please let me know if you guys would like more screenshots of going from the overhead view to the camera view of being on the laptop. And I will make sure that I do that in the next video. Okay, this one's going to be very quick. Okay, that one is complete. Unload. And I am going to go ahead and take these off the mat. I'm going to stop the camera to do that just so I can save a little bit more time. I will be right back. Okay, so I have all of the pieces off the mat, and this is our next piece of the body that we cut. And this is what is going to overlay the purple piece. So we're going to go ahead and set that aside, and I do need to scrape off the mat. I did not finish weeding out the cut pieces of this one. I will complete taking these out, and I just was doing it off camera because it does take a little bit of time to weed these pieces out. And just to save a little bit of time in the video, I just kind of did it off screen. But I wanted to show you that you want to make sure that when you are taking your pieces out, that if you have to use your weeding tool, definitely do that. Some of these pieces on the little window pieces, these are going to be the windows where the light shines through, that you want to make sure that you're really careful on removing these pieces, because they are some really small pieces. And I have found that if you take your weeding tool and kind of like push down on some of the pieces, they will come out a little bit easier. But you want to make sure that you're not applying a lot of pressure, and just kind of like make sure that you're going slow and getting those pieces out. And come on. Okay, so you can see what I'm talking about. See how some of those pieces are really intricate, like where the limbs of the tree branch are. You want to be really careful. So that is what one window of the lantern looks like. I have not completed this one yet. I will do those all off camera in a few minutes before we do the assembly. I also need to remove some of the sections on the moth wings, and I will do those off camera as well. I think I am missing a moth somewhere, and I am trying to find it. It may have flipped onto the floor. I am going to look around for that off camera. Oh, there it is. I found it. He was underneath the machine. So, and this is what I mean. These can be really easy to lose because they can flip off the mat when you are removing them, and they can fly around. So you just really want to be careful. I am going to go ahead and pause camera, clean off the mat, and I will be back, and we'll be in for the next section on the laptop screen. Give me just a moment. Okay, so we are ready to load in our next cut file, and I'm going to go back up to my stuff. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the Sitting Witch file number 3. So I'm going to click on that one. Again, I have it saved for offline. I always check that. Okay, loading in. And one of the reasons why you may want to save for offline is, say that you have the Cricut app on your phone and you're away from home and you need to edit a design, but since you are away from home, you can edit that while you're away. And then when you get home, you can work on your project. So it's a really great way to be able to give you those options to still work on something when you're not there, when you're away from your machine. Okay, so as you can see here, our next file is to be cutting some more of the windows. And I know there is a way in the actual file. Let me go back and I will show you what I'm talking about. So cancel. We're going to customize, and this is going to take us back to this screen here. And see how it is all on one piece of paper? And it is below the 8.5. It is below the 11. So what I want to do is I'm going to, let's see, let's try this. Let's highlight everything. And I'm going to hit attach. So I believe what that is now doing is it's adding it all to one piece of cardstock. So if you saw what I did is I highlighted everything and then it popped up down here that I could attach. And that's going to put it all on one piece instead of separating it into two different card mats. So I'm going to see if that worked, and I'm going to go to make and see what it did. It now says one mat. I just have to prepare one mat, and it's all going to cut on one mat. But now you can see that I am beyond my 11 inches, and I am up here on my 8.5, so I'm okay with that. So what I'm going to try to do is I am going to click here, and I can no longer move pieces around. Okay, so now that it is not going to fit on my 11-inch piece of cardstock. So some designs you are able to conserve your cardstock by attaching them all to one piece. That did not work for this one. So I'm going to cancel. I'm going to go to New, Replace. I'm going to go back to my stuff, and I'm going to reload that file and make it. Okay. So now it went back to putting it on two mats. So there are ways to conserve your cardstock, but you do have to pay attention to the size of the product that you're using and the size of the mat that you're using. So if I did have my 12 by 12 cardstock, I would have been able to cut that all on one mat. But again, since I could not, we are just going to go ahead and use another scrap piece, and I am loading it here off camera. And let's get that on the mat. And I am going to look at what my next file, the next cut is going to be. And I can click on that, and you can see that's what the next one's going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and load another mat with another full piece of cardstock, and I will have it ready for our next cut. So I'm going to again change to our overhead view, and I will be right back. Okay, so we are back to our overhead view, and I have went ahead and put a scrap piece from when I tried to film the video previously, the same exact file that we are cutting out now is what this one is, and I am able to use the same piece of cardstock that I did for that. So we're going to open, I'm going to get that ready. Load the mat, and I forgot to hit continue on the machine, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, or on the laptop. Select my cardstock, my cut pressure, and we're going to load the mat. So when you are working with a Cricut, there are a lot of steps you have to do to achieve your cut file, but once you get the hang of the basics, you're going to be able to do everything okay. There are some really in-depth cuts that you will be performing later as you learn your machine a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And while I'm talking to you, we're going to go ahead and let this cut. But for vinyls and things like that, there are some things that you will have to do that may take quite a few more steps if you're going to be editing a design and things like that. Now, I am not there yet. I have not done a lot of editing designs, just pretty basic stuff. As I do progress in my Cricut knowledge, we will do some of those tutorials later. But there are some great books out there and some great other YouTube tutorials that will help you with that. I'm going to show you here. I am not sponsored in any way by this book, but it's Cricut for Dummies, and it does show you a lot of great things on how to learn your basics on using your machine. There are some other great books that you can purchase. It's by a wonderful lady that does a lot of Cricut tutorials, and her site is called Jennifer Maker. If you are not familiar with her, I did buy her online PDF book, and it shows each step by step, which is absolutely amazing. There is going to be another book that I eventually buy that is also another one that does picture step-by-step tutorial. So, and that one I believe is called Sweet Red Poppy, is that site. If you want the physical book, I believe it's $49, but if you buy the PDF version, I think it's $19. So there are some great books out there that if you would rather have those, check those out. This one is almost done. We are cutting the windows. We're cutting the additional 4 windows. And basically, after this one, we have the second cut. And then we just have to cut our vellum and we assemble. Okay, so that one is finished. So I'm going to go ahead and set this one aside. We are going to load the mat with our next one. I meant to load it, but I got sidetracked. Okay. Sometimes you really don't have to use your brayer. You can just smooth it down with your hand. You can be the judge, you know. Okay, so I'm going to our next cut. I'm choosing my cardstock. With every cut, you have to choose your material and your pressure that you're going to cut it. And you can see that we are ready. We're going to load. Okay, start. And these pieces are going to be the structure of the skirt. It's going to give the roundness of the skirt and the support. Okay, that one's done. Okay guys, we literally have one more to cut. So I am going to pop this off so we can complete that quick. And you can see I am holding it down, and because this one's not really intricate, so I was able to get this off very easily, and those popped out really nice and easy. I'm again going to save the center pieces, and I am now going to take you back for our final load, for our final cut. Give me just a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, so we just finished the final cut on the windows of the lantern skirt. Now what I'm going to do is, we are finished with this one, so I'm hitting done. Okay, clear it. Now what we're going to do is go back up to my stuff, and we are going to cut the parchment or our vellum paper. So I'm going to hit it and we're going to load it in. Now what you really want to do on this one is you want to make sure that you are loading it on to the mat. You can see that it is 11 inches going across the top, and it is already set that way. So you want to make sure that you're going to load your vellum on your mat the correct way. So I'm going to hit continue. Now I do have to go into browse all materials, and I am going to type in vellum, and it does have a preset material for vellum. So I'm going to hit bookmark. Okay, so I have it bookmarked, so I can close it now, and it puts it into my bookmarked file. So I'm going to select vellum, and I am going to select more pressure because I want it to be a really nice, crisp, sharp cut. So I am going to pause on this camera, go to overhead, and I'll be right back. Okay. So we are back to our overhead camera, and I was telling you when I was showing you on the computer screen, you want to make sure that you're going to load your product across the top. So instead of loading our paper this way, we're going to turn it. So you really do want to make sure that when you are loading your mat, you're paying attention to what it looks like on the screen. Okay, and pushing it down. Okay, so I have the vellum attached to the mat. Now I do have it attached to my mat that is my lightest grip. Vellum can tear really easy, and I'm making sure that this is attached to the mat with my brayer. Sometimes just rubbing with your hand, I could see where it wasn't sticking. So I want to make sure that I'm going to be getting a really nice crisp cut on this one. We're going to go ahead and load it in. And this is going to be our last cut. What I'm going to do after we cut this portion, we will pause the camera again. I will make sure that all of the little pieces are taken out of our cuts that are not needed. I will move the Cricut aside, and then I'm going to show you how to assemble it, and then we'll be finished. Let's go ahead and hit start and get this one cut. This one's going to be very quick to cut. And I'm kind of really glad that we are almost done with the cutting, because I have heard some rumbles of thunder outside. So I am hoping that I will not lose internet before we get this finished and done filming. If that is the case, it probably will not be uploaded until tomorrow, because I do have to have the internet to edit and upload it. Okay, there we go. That is finished. I'm going to unload. And this one may be a little bit harder to see where your cuts are. I don't know if you guys can see them because it is so hard to see and it is such a opaque, is it opaque? Is that the right word? So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to pause the camera. I am going to make sure that I have everything nice and cleaned up and our pieces weeded and ready to go. And we will be ready to assemble our witch. Okay, so we are done on the screen for cutting. So we will not be going back to that camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and shut off the Cricut machine. I'm going to close my Cricut on the computer because we do not need that anymore. So I'm going to close up the machine. I'm going to move it back because we will need all this space so I can show you how to assemble. That is going to be really fun because when I was assembling the first one and it was coming together so easily, I was so excited to share this tutorial with you guys. Okay, so give me a minute. I just have to clean up the window pieces and remove the vellum. I'm gonna actually show you. I'm gonna remove the vellum. And you need to be really careful because if your cuts were not clean, it is hard to remove vellum. So be really careful when you're taking it off the mat because it can tear easily. That was my experience with the first time I did cut it. I tore the piece and you can see them coming off here. This is the piece I want to be careful with because I want to be able to use this leftover piece for the next project. And you can see these are our vellum windows. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause. I'm going to clean up our pieces and then we'll be ready to assemble. We will be right back. Okay guys, so we are at, whoops, I just almost messed that up. Did you guys see that? Okay, we are at the end of our video. We are going to assemble the lantern. All of the cut files are complete. I have them all nice and weeded and all of the little pieces, except for that little one right there, off. You want to make sure you're very careful if you are stacking the pieces. See how there's like 6 pieces of this one. If you stack them all together, you want to be very careful because when they are little intricate cuts, like the branches and things like that, they can get caught on each other. And then when you're lifting them apart, you could tear them very easily. So be really careful when you are stacking them up. Okay, so when you purchase these designs, I purchased these from a company called, or a seller on Amazon called The Swag Illustration. And these designs are so beautiful. I paid either $2.99 for them or $3.99 for them when I purchased them. And all 3 designs came in that price, okay? Normal price is $5.98. They are currently on sale for $2.99, 50% off for the next 17 hours according to looking at my screen on Etsy. Okay, now the reason why I have my screen up is because I want to look at a visual on how to apply the floral, the little flowers, the ghosts, and the moths. So you're going to be layering these designs. Now I found that on assembly, I assembled the window portions first because they are going to take some time to dry, and you want to make sure that the vellum is dry, that the glue. Now I also saw that gluing is going to be easier because as I was assembling my first witch, which was this one, some of the pieces are really small and you're not going to be able to use a double stick tape. So you want to make sure that you do use glue. And I also found out that the thinner the applicator of the glue, the better. So I have these little bottles, and see how you can see that it's like a little needle bottle? I found that these are really great for assembling these. I'm going to put the little lid back on there. And because some of the small areas, you are going to want to glue those down, just because if you storing them, if they get snagged on anything, they can get damaged really easy. So I found that gluing them is going to be the better option. And I found that, if I didn't say it already, gluing the vellum to the windows is the best where to start. When you purchase the design, you are going to have a couple portions that you have to download. If I remember correctly, there were 2 or 3, maybe 4 files to download. One file for each witch, and then I believe a PDF for your instructions. I always print my instructions out because I like looking at them visually. And what we're going to do first is, like I said, I found that gluing the vellum to the windows was the easiest. Now when you do cut your vellum, you're going to feel that there is a rough little side to it, just the little edge. There's just where it was cut, there's like a little raised lip. And I found that putting that to the outside helped with the vellum to lay flatter. Also, when you are assembling your lantern, you can alternate on the way your direction goes, but make sure that if you're doing a cardstock that is directional, that if there is an obvious front and back to it, make sure you keep that in the one direction. Now, theoretically on these that I have, it's one direction, or I'm sorry, both directions, since it's black on both sides. But I was looking, and one side does look a little bit cleaner than the other from the cut. So I'm going to make sure that I have all my windows facing the same direction. Now, when you are doing your vellum, take one window at a time and flip it over. And you're going to want to apply your glue to the paper, not the vellum, because you don't want a lot of glue shining through or globbed up on the vellum, because that is going to show when you're shining the light through, when you have your tea light inside your battery powered tea light inside the lantern. Okay, so what I did is we're going to go ahead and start assembly, and I'm going to show you how to do the first one, and then I'm going to pause the camera, complete all 6 pieces, and that way it's just going to take a little less time. So what I did is I am using just regular Elmer's school glue. You can use a tacky glue, but I found out that this one was just a little too thick for this. Sometimes I also found that if you are using too much glue, it can distort the window a little bit when it dries. So you will have to play around on what's going to be the right amount. Okay, so what I did, I want to make sure my glue's coming out. What I did first is I went around the border. And I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can see this. Let me stand up and zoom you in. We are going to tilt a little bit. Hopefully you're okay with that there. Okay, so you can see that I'm just putting the glue along the edge. I'm going to take my little thing off there because it kind of gets in the way. So I'm just putting the glue along the edge, and I'm not doing a lot. I'm just basically applying just a little bit of glue, and that little spot's even too much there. So I'm going to just kind of, with my finger, and you want to make sure that you're not getting a lot of glue on the front, because when it dries it will show. So just be really careful. I'm just putting very little along the edges. Okay, so now what I want to do is, it's better if it's sitting down because you're not going to be touching it. And let's move this up a little so you guys can see, so you are in frame. Sorry, I kind of forget that I'm filming and I get out of frame. I'm going to put a little glue on the body of the witch, a little bit, maybe just a little tiny bit on these stems, so I know they will lay down, because I don't want them to snag. So I mean, the cat tail is really little, and you can see I am not putting a lot. So just a just little touches here and there. Okay, so like so. And I'm gonna put a little more here. And these are just so I know that these pieces are gonna stick down. Now I'm gonna take my vellum and I'm gonna put it at the bottom first. Maybe I'm being a little bit too, let's see, what's a good word? Too anal? Too obsessive compulsive on the way I'm doing this, and maybe less is more, but this is what I found works for me. So if you just want to put the glue around just the edge and maybe just in the center, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to press down on it, and what I found that worked good for me is I took my bag that I had everything in and I pressed down on it, and I just kind of did a light roll, and that's just to make sure that all those pieces were laid down nicely. And there is our first window. Okay, if you see any little pieces sticking up, just like on the next one, make sure that you put glue in that spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause, and I'm going to finish the additional 5 windows and set those aside, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have all of the windows glued, and you can see those there, and you can see how they do curl a little bit. That's going to be okay. That's not too bad, because when you do put them in, they are going to shape, but it's just the glue kind of distorts it a little bit. Okay, so now what my next step is going to be is I also want to glue the little flowers. Now, either the little flowers or the moths. So these are going to be layered. And I think, I'm looking at my screen, and I think we're going to wait to do this part. We are going to go ahead and assemble the layer of the witch. Now, when I layered this piece, you need to be really careful, because you need to get it, see on this one, I didn't get it quite layered quite right, and you can see a little bit of the orange over the edges. I'm okay with it being that much, but if it was highly obvious, I don't think it would look as good. So you do need to be really careful gluing these down as well. And what I found is do the top of the hat first, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'm just going to do the hat first. Hopefully I am in screen, and I'm just going to make sure I get it right on the point, and some glue there, and I'm going to do these little hair pieces that are kind of like blowing in the wind as well. And I might not be making a good decision right there on that part yet, but we're going to try it to see if I can get this lined up okay. Okay, so I'm going to lay this part down first. I'm going to, this is what worked for me. You guys may have a different way that's going to work for you, but this is what worked for me. And I laid it down, and I made sure I got this first part lined up accurately as best as I can. Okay, so I got that part lined up. Now these parts where the little, like the hairs are, you need to be really careful gluing those down. I found that just now putting this part up here and lifting this way, applying glue just where it's needed. Because let me tell you, the first one that I did, I ruined it. Because I put glue all over it and tried to lay it down, and I messed it up because I could not get it to lay down accurately. And the glue kind of actually set up really quickly. And I'm just going to get over here. And I'm sorry if I'm out of frame. I'm just kind of like making sure I get the glue applied on these little pieces that can lift really easily. And then just put a little more there. And okay, now I'm going to lay down gently. And some of these pieces you are going to have to kind of maneuver them into space, into the right spot, like this one. And the hair, to make sure they lay down nice and flat. And you can see it's kind of bending a little bit. I did find that when I was gluing the pieces, if you put something heavy down on them, they will dry flat. So there's that. But being that we are doing the tutorial, I want to show you guys exactly what can happen. So I'm being really careful not to bend up the cardstock. I just want to lift it enough to put a little bit of glue. And am I putting too much glue? I don't think so. But Elmer's glue may have a little bit of water added to it. I'm not sure. But like I said, if you want these to dry more flat, make sure you put something like a heavy book or something over the top of it. Now this little piece right here, I really want to make sure that I glue well, because that little piece, if I can get this separated, that little piece is really a fine, intricate cut, and I want to make sure that it doesn't tear when it's going to be used. So I'm going to make sure that I'm putting glue on there, but I'm being careful at the same time. And we're just going to do, hopefully you guys can see this okay. And I know it's hard because I have the angle that I'm at. Okay, so we're going to make sure we lay that down gently. And I'm going to just make sure I kind of hold that with the tweezers so I get that lined up just right. Okay, there we go. Now, I do have my quilting cutting mats behind the table. I could take them off and just use the bottom because I do have the silicone mats on my table. But I thought for visual, it would be easier for you guys to see. Let me know what you guys think. Is it easier to see with the mat, the cutting mat, or should I just do the silicone mat that I have on my table? Would that be easier for you guys to see? And you can see I'm not putting a whole lot of glue on there. There may be a better glue that I could use, but I just found that the Elmer's glue kind of flows more easily in these little bottles, these needle applicator bottles. I'm not sure what the right word for this bottle is. I think that's what they're called. I think they're called needle tip applicator bottles. And I'm just making sure I get all the glue on there. And lay it down and make sure my pieces are looking good. Okay, so I have that glued down. Now my next step is I may give this just a couple minutes to dry, but I think we'll be okay to start the assembly. So our next part is going to be, I want to go ahead and do these now. And you can see that these are kind of 3D. They are going to pop out and give a little bit of dimension. Now, my ghost skulls are a little bit different than what they are showing on the screen on what this one is. I'm going to go to my purchases, and I'm going to see on my download if maybe give me just a second, sorry guys. I'm looking on my screen and I'm going to my purchase on here, and I'm going to go to my download file and see if it shows me a little bit of a different witch, possibly. Okay, it's not. Okay, sorry guys, I know I'm off camera, I'm really sorry. I am trying to look at my download file because I want to make sure that I assemble it correctly, and I've got literally 6 different little size skulls here, and you want to make sure that you get them assembled correctly, because the holes, the little holes on there, let me move this on the darker spot, hopefully you guys can see these little things a little better, that you want to make sure that you're going to line these up correctly. And I'm thinking that the smallest ones are going to be for the floral, and I want to make sure that I am putting the them in the right area. So I'm going to go to my download file. We're going to download and see if I can open these on my computer. And okay, so it opened these as a PDF. It did not open it. Give me just a minute. I want to make sure that I'm getting these accurate for you guys. Okay, so it's gonna download these as a PDF file, but and then it's gonna take you to a secondary page for you to assemble these. It's not giving an accurate picture, so let me. I'm looking on my computer. I'm really sorry, guys. I want to make sure that I am getting these assembled correctly. And I'm looking in my in the PDF file, and that's not accurate. Not now. Okay, so it's not giving me an assembly photo for where I'm supposed to actually apply the little skulls and things. So I'm going to just kind of look on the picture for on screen, and it kind of shows it a little bit differently, but we're just going to try to match up with the holes. So our largest is going to be here. So now what I want to do is I want to take the green one, because the black one's going to go over the top. And you can see how it gives it the layered effect. Sorry guys, I was out of frame, like so. So I'm going to just quickly glue this, and you just want to kind of pay attention to just like you did the windows, the same way, and make sure that you have everything lined up nicely. If you're going to be selling them or gifting them, you naturally want them to look nice. I've got a little bit of glue on the top of this and I'm just trying to wipe it off. Okay, so there's that one. Now, what our next step for this is going to be is we are going to layer the skull over this as well. So we are going to take the largest skull, and you can kind of see the shape of where the skull is going to go. So it's going to go right on top like that, and it's going to go right here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to put the glue here because it's just easier to see. Let's pop our little skull on there. And I'm really sorry if I'm again out of frame, guys. And I want to make sure that you can still see through, so you can see the eyes. And if I'm going to be selling this, I will make sure really, really closely that I'm not getting, can you see the glue that I got along the edge here? And you can see it on the black cardstock. If I would be selling this, I would not want all that glue on there. So just keep in mind that neatness is going to count if you will be selling the items. Okay. So this one, and I did find that a pair of tweezers really helps as well, and we're going to layer it right here, and there we go. There is our first moth or skull moth, whatever you would like to call it. So that is that one. I'm going to layer them off camera and I will be right back. Okay, so I have our additional little pieces layered, and now I'm just going to pop them on to where they go. So we did our first little moth here, and our second one goes right here. So I'm going to just kind of apply glue here. And pop him right on. And you want to make sure that you're lining up the eyes. And there's that one. Then our next moth is going to go right here. And I want to make sure I'm getting that lined up good. Hopefully I am in frame. Okay, so now we're going to do our flowers, and our large flower is right here on her hat. So I'm going to apply it to the flower so I know I'm getting it in the right spots here. And I did find that using a pair of tweezers sometimes does help apply it better. Okay, and the good part on this one is that you can still see the black in the background right here along this edge, okay? Because you're lining up the eyes, not the edge of the flower with the cut edge of the witch. You're making sure you line up the eyes because the purple is showing through to give dimension. And our next flower is here. And guys, let me tell you, in the colors that they suggested, I'm just going by what they showed on the cut file. When it loaded into the machine, it showed that it was green. Do not by any means think that you have to stick to that. You can change up your color if you want, like the flowers to be red, like the skull ones on here. If you want the background to be red instead of the purple that we used on this one, use red. Use an orange flower. Use whatever color you wish. Okay, so now our last one is going, oops, my little skull fell off. I gotta glue this little guy back on there. I guess I didn't put enough glue. And this one is really tiny, so it was a little harder to get on there. Come on. And I'm sorry if my big ol' head's in the way, and I'm not even in frame. Okay, so you can see how, literally how small that one was, putting that one on there. And it's just going to go here, and I'm going to hold it with the tweezers because it is smaller. And it's going to go where these two little dots are here. And I want to make sure, again, I'm lining up the eyes before I stick it down on there because I don't want a lot of the glue showing. And there we go. The front portion of our witch is complete. I'm going to zoom back out because this is going to be important that you guys see all of these next steps here. Okay, move that back up a little bit. Okay, so we are done with gluing. So I'm going to make sure my glue's closed. Now what you want to do is you're going to take your witch, and there are these two pieces that you cut. So if you notice they're not the same, let me get another piece of color here and you can see what I'm talking about. So see on this piece of vellum, I'm gonna put it this way so you guys can see hopefully a little better. So see that they're not cut exactly the same? This one has a notch at the top and this one has two notches. The one that you want to put in first is the one with one notch, okay? And the reason why that is that this piece is going to lock this piece into place. So you're going to take your witch and you're going to hold it upright, and you're going to take this piece and you're going to slide this notch in with this notch on the bottom of the witch. And sometimes it does help holding it up, and you can bend it a little bit and you're going to do that so it's in there locked into place. It's better if you leave it standing upright because it helps lock these pieces into place. Now this next piece, how we have the witch straight, this piece is going to be like this, okay? So now what you want to do with this piece is you want to put it at an angle. So again, I'm going to put the bottom in first, and it can be a little tricky. So make sure you're really careful putting them in and you don't bend your pieces. It will move around a little bit as you're doing it, which is completely fine. Okay, and then you're going to get we're not locking into place. There we go. We need to lock into place. Okay, come on. And sometimes it'll pop apart and you just gotta kind of work with it. Get that in there. Come on. Okay, I told you guys incorrectly. It was this piece that needs to go first. Sorry about that, guys. The piece with the two notches on the top and bottom need to go in first, and this larger one locks it in. I thought I was confident in what I was saying, and please excuse me, I was incorrect. I was trying to figure out why it wasn't going into place. It's because this one has a deeper cut, and that deeper cut's going to help lock it into place. So sorry about that, guys. Okay, so now you're going to kind of like fold it down in there and pop them into place. So now you're going to have something that looks like this, that it's kind of spread like this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is you're going to take your circle pieces. Now these pieces were the ones that I had the hardest time putting into place, because if you see the little grooves in here, you have to make sure that you're getting the grooves in these portions, okay? So these here, and on the body of the witch, you're wanting to make sure that you get them in there. So if you turn it this way, that is fine. So gently put it in place. You can do it this way, but be really careful not to tear your pieces. I found just leaving them kind of like moving around works, but it did take a little bit of practice on getting it in place. I want to make sure that I'm doing one side first and I'm getting the notches in those little places where it needs to be. And you can gently kind of bend it if you need to, but be very careful not to like crease your paper. So don't bend it sharply, if that makes sense. Okay, so I am trying to get everything popped into place, and it can be a little tricky. That's not accurate. Okay, there we go. Now these pieces are going to lock into the little slots that are cut into the paper. So make sure you are getting those little slots where they need to be. And this one is giving me a little more difficulty. Wouldn't you know, when you're on camera, that usually happens. Okay, so okay, there we go. It popped into place except for this little one here. And just kind of maneuver it around until you get, see how these vertical pieces popped into those slots? So you do have to kind of maneuver it in there to make it pop into place. Just be very careful that, again, you don't tear. If you tear, you can easily cut another piece. It's not that big of a deal, but just be really careful. Okay, so now we're going to take the large circle and we're going to put it in the bottom. And it's just the same way that you did the smaller one. That piece is wanting to lock in, so I'm going to just rotate it. That piece locked in. Come on. Come on. Turn. And again, it's just maneuvering it until they pop into place. And there we go. Oh, nope, not, there we go. This one's not popped in. There we go. Okay, so now it's popped into place. You can see how it's all slotted in. And these little slots are where the windows are going to slot into. So see how we have them on the top circle and the bottom circle. So that is what it looks like from the front, and she stands up perfectly. Okay, so now I found that when I am inserting the windows, this was tricky. At least for me it was tricky. It may not be for you guys. But what I did is I turned to the back first, and I worked in clockwise motion or counterclockwise, whichever way works best for you. But start on one of the panel pieces. Don't start on this, because I found that it was harder to put the last piece in on these weaker sides. So I took my window, and where the little notches are, I notched the piece in on one side first and then popped it into place. I hope you guys saw that okay. I can do it the same way with up here. So you're going to, the way I was holding it, I was putting my fingers through the panel part. Take the little piece, kind of angle it so you're getting the notch in first, and then slide the rest in. And that's what worked for me to get it assembled. And that one popped in perfectly. So you're going to work your way all the way around, and you're going to pop them all in one at a time. And I'm not kidding, they can be difficult. Just take your time so they pop in nicely and you don't tear. There is in the instructions that you can leave one window off on the back if you wish, to be able to slide in the tea light, and that'll be always to the back so the light shines through. This one did not have eyes for the witch. The previous one I made, the red one, had eyes on it, and I thought that was kind of really cute. So we're just going to pop these in place all the way around the lantern. And I kind of visualize at the top, or check at the top that they are locked into place. But sometimes they're hard to see. Sorry, I'm going to be out of shot here for a second. I'm trying to look up close to get that popped in there, and that way you know that they're getting locked into place. There we go. Okay, so they're going to lock into place at the top, just like they lock into place at the bottom. You can see that. And then same with the front. I'm going to start at the edge and get those popped in. And the more you get them assembled, the harder it is to put the next one, because you really don't have a place to really put your hands. Okay, so we got 4 of the 6 in. That one popped in really easy. And then we are going to pop in our last piece. And the last one is the one that gave me the most difficulty, because I didn't have a lot of maneuverability for my hands. So I kind of had to hold it down a little bit like this to make sure that I'm popping it in, so I had room for my fingers. And then what I did is I kind of bent it out a little bit to get it to pop into the skirt accurately. Okay, literally guys, we are done with our witch. So I hope you guys had fun with these tutorials, or this tutorial. These are the 3 completed witches. And again, this one is the cauldron, where she's stirring in a cauldron. And I did orange background. That's what it showed me in the cut file. And the flowers were purple with the orange shining, coming through. This one was called the Skull Witch, or the Skull Ghost, excuse me, the Skull Ghost Witch. So you got your skulls and your ghost here. And you can see that her eyes on this one actually come through. And then the one we just completed. And this one was called the Sitting Witch. So she's sitting on a tree limb with her little kitty. Okay guys, I really hope you guys had fun with this. I really loved making these. I will be making an additional one like this for a friend who I will be sending it to her in the mail. These 3 are for my niece. She is a huge fan of Halloween, and I really hope she likes them and she gets a kick out of them. Okay guys, let me know what you guys think. The seller information will be down below. I'm not going to put the price in the description because currently it's on sale for the next 16 hours, 52 minutes, and 58 seconds. So basically just shy of 17 hours it will be on sale. You guys, I really loved that I could make something like this out of paper. They are fragile. They can get bent easily. They can get torn easily. So be careful assembling them. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you're going to give these a try, if you have a Cricut machine, and we will talk to you guys all really soon. Thanks guys for sticking around for this tutorial. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button if you like the video, hit the bell icon, that'll notify you when I get a new video posted, and stay tuned because the next tutorial we are going to be making Christmas cards on the Cricut machine. Alright guys, bye bye, good night.